Welcome to Cancer Lesson 4.4, How does the immune system protect us against cancer? The goals of this lesson are to reframe cancer as a disease in which the immune system can no longer control transformed cells, and explore how cancer therapies work by using the immune system to fight cancer. At the end of the lesson, the students should be able to explain how the immune system typically kills most tumor cells, describe the mechanisms tumor cells use to hide from or evade the immune system, and explain how the immune system can have both negative and positive effects on tumors. We will achieve our goals with a Socratic discussion and by calculating how important the immune system is in preventing tumor formation. To prepare for this lesson, you'll need to review the following key scientific concepts that will be presented throughout the lesson. The immune system recognizes non-self and abnormal self and targets them for destruction. Cancer cells are considered abnormal self, and the immune system recognizes these cells as abnormal when the cancer cells display abnormal proteins on their surface. However, cancer cells continually mutate and evolve, so the immune system also evolves in response to keep attacking the cancer cells. You can review the scientific content in the background reading provided for you in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. The teacher primer provides in-depth knowledge about the scientific content presented in this lesson. The teacher manual, or lesson plan, provides a minute-by-minute explanation of the lesson structure, and the student workbook provides additional explanation for students. Be sure to print the lesson worksheet and the homework worksheet. Note that the students will use the Lesson 4.4 worksheet throughout the Do Now discussion and activity. The key points of the Do Now are that the immune system can distinguish self from non-self and abnormal self cells, and tumor cells are seen as abnormal self cells and are targeted for killing. We'll get there by following the questions in the students' worksheets. We begin by establishing a key point of this lesson, that the immune system is not only responsible for defending us from external pathogens, but also for destroying any of our own cells that have become abnormal. In other words, the immune system recognizes cells as self versus non-self and abnormal self. For example, bacteria and viruses are seen as non-self, and the immune system recognizes them based on unique proteins and structures. But how does the immune system recognize abnormal self cells like tumor cells that have changed in some way? The key points of the discussion are that the immune system recognizes cancer cells as abnormal when they display abnormal peptides on their surface. Because cancer cells are continually mutating, recognizing and killing them is an ongoing battle for the immune system. Nonetheless, the immune system kills 99% of cancer cells. Students should now be answering the questions on page 2 of the worksheet. As we have learned, when cancer cells acquire mutations, these mutations result in either loss or change of some of the cell's proteins, or proteins are expressed when they should not be expressed. Each time a cell makes a protein, it chops it into fragments called peptides, and a receptor called MHC1 brings the peptides to the cell surface. Killer T cells scan these peptides on the cell surface to make sure the cell is normal or self. But when one of the peptides changes because of a mutation or because it shouldn't have been made, a killer T cell with the corresponding receptor will recognize the peptide as abnormal and kill the tumor cell. After this, the killer T cell with that specific receptor proliferates so that there are enough cells with that receptor to kill all the mutated cells, and thus more cancer cells are destroyed. But remember that not all the cancer cells are identical. Some of them may express slightly different peptides on their surface, so T cells with different receptors recognize these different peptides. But each cancer cell is continually mutating. If the abnormal peptide is no longer made, the expanded T cell population that recognizes the abnormal peptide no longer recognizes and kills the cancer cell, so the cancer cell has won this battle. Even though there are billions of T cells that can recognize every peptide that might appear on the cell surface, it takes time to mobilize them, and meanwhile the cancer cells continue to mutate. Fortunately, a different type of immune cell, called natural killer cell, is also brought into play, and these natural killer cells have a different type of receptor, called an inhibitory receptor. As long as natural killer cells see an MHC1 receptor on a cell, they won't kill the cell. But cancer cells that are proliferating rapidly often stop making the MHC1 receptor. In this case, the natural killer inhibitory receptor has nothing to attach to, and the natural killer cell will kill the tumor cells. Between them, killer T cells and natural killer cells take care of 99% of cancer cells. In the activity, students calculate how long it would take for epithelial cells to acquire all the mutations needed to become cancerous. The key point of this calculation is to emphasize how important the immune system is in keeping cancer at bay. The following slides work through the steps needed to perform the calculation. First, to find out how long it takes for one mutation to occur in years, to convert that number to seconds, to calculate how long the 3 mutations necessary for the transformation would take, and finally to figure out how many cells would transform per second. The key points of the wrap-up are that cancer cells can directly control the immune system cells to help them proliferate. Both overactive and weakened immune systems can also help cancer cells proliferate. The first slide summarizes the different ways the immune system can fight cancer, but there are also several ways that cancer cells can evade the immune system. Cancer cells can mutate to make themselves even more aggressive. They can also mutate so that they signal the immune cells to degrade the stroma, which helps the cancer cells enter the bloodstream. We need a strong immune system to control tumors, but if the immune system is overactive, this can itself lead to more aggressive cancers. Remind students about Lesson 3.3, where they studied how chronic inflammation can lead to cancer. On the other hand, a weakened immune system will not be able to control cancer. This is seen in conditions where patients must take immunosuppressive drugs. For homework, have students read a news article about how immunotherapy offers hope as a new type of anti-cancer therapy. One of the most common questions students ask is, what is worse, having a carcinogen overactivating the immune system or an immunosuppressant suppressing it? The immune system takes care of 99% of all tumors on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, having a suppressed immune system would be worse because in the presence of a normal immune system, the effects of a carcinogen may be dampened. At the end of the lesson, collect the lesson worksheets to assess students' explanations of how the immune system can have both positive and negative effects on tumors. This lesson connects back to Lesson 3.3, which examined how chronic inflammation can exacerbate cancer. Don't forget, if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, to let us know. You can contact any of the CTSE team members, and we'll be happy to help you.